Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Miller. I'm a director here in Chicago and an occasional instructor at the Acting Studio Chicago. Today, we're talking about one-liners and best practices, how to audition for them, how to navigate set as a day player on a shoot day. And my guest today is Gail Rastorfer. Gail is an accomplished actress. She splits her time between Chicago and LA. She's actually in Phoenix, Arizona at the moment, working on a play, but you can see her on screen right now in a cool one-line role in Being the Ricardos on Amazon, written and directed by Sorkin, and now Oscar nominated. Gail, good morning. How are you?
Yes.
Tell us about your life.
Hello.
So diving right in, tell us a little bit about this project. Did you have access to the full script? Presumably you got this audition from your agent?
I did get the audition from my manager. It was only 2 pages, maybe a page and a half that I was able to read. I did not get the script. It was a one-liner, kind of a day player thing. I did know what the project was. Sometimes a lot of these things, especially if they're big or big names are attached, will be hush-hush. There'll be a fake title. There'll be fake names in it. FYI, American Horror Story does that quite a bit. But I knew it was, about the Ricardos. I did not know who was attached to it other than Aaron Sorkin. So that's all I had to do to prep. So I knew the time period it was set in, right? Very key. And that I would be dressing Lucille Ball.
Gotcha. Yeah. So really drilling down into that moment now. So this is a true one-liner. I think your scripted line was sure. I think
that's it. I had one word. It wasn't even one line. It was one word.
Not even a line. It was one word.
Yeah.
I have found in my experience, as a casting director and also as a director and occasionally as a producer, looking at a script then with those kind of roles, the crowbar question that really, I think for actors as well as directors unlocks a lot is, why does this character need to speak? Why is this character in the script? Because if this could be a background performer, you would save a lot of money as a producer, but the fact that this role is a speaking role and they do have one scripted word, that qualifies them to be a principal performer. And that means they're paid at a wildly different rate than a background player. So it becomes a very important and I think fruitful question to ask, why does this character need to speak here? And I'm wondering if you thought about that just from the limited amount of information you had going into the audition. Like, what's the purpose of this role? Why do we need this dresser to have a line here?
Well, I think there's many factors in play. Number one, it was a big feature. Number two, Aaron Sorkin was attached to it. And that man is very specific. He's a playwright. He's a screenwriter. He's a playwright. And he understands the importance of environment. And day players, to take, some instruction from the late, great Jane Alderman, who, I took many classes from, and one being these kind of one-liner day player roles, is she's like, you are there to enhance the environment of the piece. We're dealing with a very visual medium. So if it is important enough for you to say that one word or that one line, you're really trying to enhance the physical environment. So I always have that in mind. I'm there to enhance the environment or the moment before or the moment during. And for me, I knew it was the moment before, right? We're getting ready. There's a time issue, and I was there to help with that.
Yeah. Yet you're raising the stakes really in that moment too.
Right.
This is the day of the show, and then there's a confrontation that not having full access to the script, there's probably a little bit of that dialogue you can see on the page of like, oh, Lucille Ball's about to get into it with
and she's dealing with her stuff, so I'm helping with that train of thought. I'm helping with her, because if she were just sitting there casually at her dressing table, right, the conflict wouldn't be built up as much. Right? It is her thought process of getting ready, being this woman, getting ready to go on to do this show, all that pressure, and then being interrupted and having to deal with something else, having to multitask. So I was just there for that flavor. That's what I was there for.
And I think this is a good place now to show your audition. So I'm going to show that right now, and we'll get to see kind of what you submitted for your self-tape.
Fantastic.
Yeah, come in. Can I have a second?
Sure.
Yeah, come in. Can I have a second?
Sure. Hi, I'm Gail Rastorfer. I'm 5'9". I'm based in Los Angeles.
And there it was. So cool of you to share that with us. I think it's always really helpful to be able to see what you did that that got you the role. So tell me about some of the choices that went on here. As you said, you didn't have full access to the script, which is pretty much par for the course on a project like this. What I love, though, about that audition we just saw is it has a really clear beginning, middle, and end, even though it's just one word. You sculpted a full moment, and I think that's a really smart thing to do for this kind of role, is make sure you're giving yourself that full story arc. Tell me a little bit about that, putting that together, because I think it just played so clearly. I could see the beginning, middle, and end, and it worked so well.
I think especially with one-liners, and we're always encouraged to do this. I don't know what it's like in Chicago, but out in LA, we are encouraged to do a couple of takes if they are distinctly different from one another, especially with these one-liners, co-star type of roles. But if you can't do something distinct, don't do it, right? So again, from what I had been taught by Jane Alderman, it is, right, sometimes you're just there to add to the environment. So do a straight take, do an easy take, but make sure you are in that space. The producers and the directors want to see that you can fit into that place and time, right? That you are focused on your job or whatever that is. If you're, if you are working in an airport and you're checking people in, they want to know that they want to be able to see that through the screen in your little box, that you're working on the computer, you're looking up something for them, you discover something that, oh, your flight has been canceled, I'm so sorry. So they want to see all those discoveries on your face too, right? But sometimes they just want the information. They don't want your whole pre-life, right? But this is what's great with two takes, right? I do one that's just like, I'm doing my job, I'm in and my out. And then I do one where I'm like, I'm going to have a little bit of a point of view here.
Yes.
That's it. I just need a slight point of view. I love you.
I'm not
a fan of you.
And
right?
You're so clear.
All that in sure. Like I go, I love you, Lucy. And then Jesse, like you're always coming in and interrupting. I don't like that.
Yeah, I think that's what made it so real, was like there were relationships in play there. We saw your relationship with Lucy, we saw your relationship with Jesse, and it was very clear and clean, and I think that's partly what made it work so well.
Yeah.
You also, I want to call out, you dressed the era really well. Tell me about your thinking for that and your choices for that.
I feel like it's important for, again, you're in this box. This is all the producers and the directors see. It's a visual medium. You've got to be able to wear the outfit. The outfit shouldn't wear you. So when people go in and they go full throttle, they wear the lab coat or whatever it is. The outfit's wearing them.
Yep, I think
so. You as an actor.
Say that phrase again, because I think that's a really good touchstone.
The outfit wears you. And that's when I think producers and directors get turned off.
Yeah.
They don't believe you, right? You wear the outfit. You come in and you're the creator. So I think it's important, especially when it's a period piece. And there's a lot of period pieces going on right now, folks. Lots of them. And I'm telling you, I think it's part of my ability to be able to pull this off, that for so many like stuff that's set in the 80s or the 70s or the 60s or whatever, that I am called back for or pinned for, because they can see me in that environment, because I am able to say, I live here believably.
Did you have a callback or director session for this project, or was it straight from the tape?
Straight from the tape.
Wow.
Straight from the
That's
tape.
pretty much the norm these days, is what I'm hearing, is that for these kind of roles, it really is straight from the tape. There is not an in-person encounter with the director. Obviously, COVID has changed some of that, but even before COVID, this was the trend, is that these kind of roles were being booked directly from that first round tape.
Yeah, and I would say regarding that, because one word is one word, they're pretty safe. And there's I mean, there's a lot of factors in play, right? I think there were, a couple of things that were in my control and one that wasn't. And one being, okay, she fits the environment. She looks visually great. She gave us a couple of distinct but subtle takes, so we know she can be directed. And three is, which was totally out of my control, I'm tall.
Yes. Yeah, that comes into play. I mean, you're playing opposite an actress who is pretty tall.
She's tall. And I realized, somebody who's 5'5" would not have hired her, because the differential would have been distracting visually.
Yes.
So they wanted somebody who was her height, who didn't make her look like a giant.
Yes. You were booked straight from the tape. I assume that your first kind of encounter with anyone on that production team was probably your fitting, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And tell me about that. I think that's often an underrated, or something that's not talked about a lot, in terms of the information that you can glean from a fitting. And I'm curious to know what your encounter was like there with the designer. Did you encounter any other actors? What information did you pick up in that moment?
I was, the scene I was in was one of the last to be shot. So almost everyone had been fitted at that point. And this is how I know, because the costume designer, Susan, let me know. Because I was like, I had a huge rack of clothes. I mean, it was so luxurious. And she's like, well, we're coming to the end and you're the last to be fitted. And these were all the things that, Nicole or whomever, because I was, some of the stuff that they had pulled for her, I fit into. So we had a ton of options. And the costume designer, Susan, was very just, how does this look? How do you feel? Da, da, da. And she's like, this looks great on you. But next to Nicole, I was like, I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
Totally get it. Do what you need to do. I knew that they weren't going to let me look bad.
Yeah.
And then Susan was like, I just need you to know Aaron's great, but he really is, precise. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I already knew that, but it was nice that, they were helpful.
Yeah.
The team are very helpful. And I knew right from the fitting, how relaxed she was, how focused, and how the team was relaxed and focused. I was like, oh, this is going to be a pretty great set.
Yeah. And that's a great segue into the next thing I want to talk about, which is the shoot day and navigating the shoot day. And, being a day player, and I know you've been on many sets, but that's a very challenging job to step onto. I liken it to Thanksgiving dinner. You're going to Thanksgiving dinner at someone else's family's house, and you're sitting down at that table with all of those family members, and they all have history, and there's a lot of unspoken things. There's a lot of sometimes tension in the air that you don't entirely understand what's
happening.
Dysfunction, all of the above.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a very happy meal, but you have to navigate it no matter what energy is happening there. And that can be a real challenge to stay professional in an environment you're not sure if you're going to be welcomed with open arms, or if it's going to be you kind of directing yourself that day. Tell me a little bit about your set experience, just from the beginning to your call time and getting into makeup and wardrobe, and what your day was like.
Great. So my call time was great. It was like, this was, folks, this was a dream job. I'm going to tell you, it doesn't go like this most of the time, but I will definitely hold it in my heart forever. 8 o'clock call in the morning. I mean, usually your call is around 4:30, especially if you're a day player. You're usually the first one there and the last one to leave.
Especially in the piece too.
Yeah. And so 8 a.m. and it was very efficient. Uh, it was focused but relaxed. So usually you could sit in your trailer for 3 hours easy. This wasn't like that, but I also wasn't rushed to makeup. They're like, when you get a chance, go over to makeup. Makeup was very efficient, hair and makeup pristine. And I had even had like on the day of my wardrobe, they drove me over to set so they could look at my head and my face and my nails even. I mean, this is how historically accurate they were. They asked me to file my nails a certain way and they were going to paint them, right, in the
Wow.
style. I was like, who's gonna see my nail? Okay.
Yeah.
But that was the kind of
Mhm.
that's the level that they were at,
Yeah,
right?
that's the attention to detail that.
The attention to detail. And so that was very efficient. They were very welcoming. They were very excited and happy to see me and to, you know, put the 50s on this new person that they'd never seen
Uh-huh.
before. The makeup trailer was great. Tony Hale walked in, and you know, I always kind of can tell, like, kind of how the other artists on set are going to be,
Mhm.
and that is, you know, if you're in the makeup trailer with them, and Tony Hale walks in and immediately goes to me, is like, "Hey, I'm Tony," and I'm like, "Ah, okay,
Yeah.
okay." When immediately their first uh, moment, you know, in the morning is, who do I not know here that I need to introduce myself to? Lesson for everybody,
That's a
right?
great
As we
sign.
climb the ladder, I'm like, this is who I want to emulate, right? Because they know it's their table.
Mm-hmm. That's
So to welcome you to that table, to the Thanksgiving dinner, is the most wonderful gift you can give to anybody who's new, right? It puts you immediately at ease and let you know you're part of the crew.
that's wonderful. That's great to hear. So you get in hair and makeup. You are heading over to set, I assume. Um,
Yeah, before that, you know, they take me back to my trailer. I have a little breakfast, and then they're like, "Yeah, we're about ready to go." And I'm like, "Great." I walk out, and who's the second person to greet me? The director.
that guy.
The director has his trailer right across from mine. He's like, "Hey, welcome." I mean, immediately knows who I am, calls me by name, welcomes me.
Impressive.
Yeah, who
That,
does that? No one
yeah.
does. I mean, I'm telling you, not doesn't happen very often. And then we go to set and we're directed. Aaron Sorkin is a theater guy, so he immediately has a huddle with everybody who's involved with the scene, and we read through the scene, we talk through the scene, and he directs every single person in that scene, me included.
I was going to ask what kind of direction you got. Was there a rehearsal? Sometimes it's feeling like a hot poker is in your back and it's just go. But it
Yeah,
sounds like you had a real rehearsal.
no, he talks to every person in that scene and says, "What are you doing here?
Wow.
What's your," yeah. So he's like, "Gail, show me Nicole, come here." And Nicole's like, "Yes." And Nicole is Nicole Kidman's like, "Okay, so we've known each other. We're friends. You've done this for me for years." And
Uh-huh.
she's like, "Feel free to manhandle me, touch me, turn me around."
Wow, what a gift. What a gift that is to have the star, take some time to establish a relationship like that. That's fantastic.
And then Aaron's like, "Okay, so show me what you would do as a dresser. Show me what you're going to do." And he had the costume designer there. So he included the costume designer on this to
Mhm.
say, to observe and say, is what she's doing correct?
Yeah.
I
Again,
literally did 3 seconds and I
yeah.
said, "So I'm gonna da, da, da," and I literally talked through making sure, and he's like, "Oh, you got it, okay."
What, you're stepping onto a set with arguably one of the biggest stars in the world. Um, Tell me a little bit about, I mean, we already got a taste for it, but it sounds like she sets just an amazing tone in terms of it's about the work and it's about making these scenes work the best they can. What were your moments with her like in between takes? Was there much back and forth?
again, it was really a dream set in that these two actors, Tony Hale and Nicole Kidman, were extremely professional. Um, uh, you know, I've been on a lot of sets where stars are on their phones or talking to their posse or whatever in between takes. It was like being in a theater rehearsal. Between takes, they were like off in their corners, like running lines and really concentrated and focused. First of all, it was a great scene. I was like, this scene is so well crafted. I wanted to steal it for myself. I was like, I want to do this in class or something. This scene is so the dynamic is so wonderful. So they were completely concentrated on their lines and how they were going to deliver them, but just being in relationship with one another. Let's do it this way. Let's do it that way. Aaron would take input from Tony and Nicole about, I want to try this moment here, or, you know, so they were, you know, there was just no ego. They wanted to please, they wanted to get the moment right. And, you know, as a day player, you need to respect space. You know, there were some people on set that would be like, hey, you know, trying to talk to them. I'm like, you know what? They're working.
Yeah.
Let them work
Yeah.
and be there to support. You know, if I caught her eye or are you okay? Like before we would roll and we were face to face, I'd kind of look at her and be like, okay, here we go. And, you know, do you need me to do anything different? And she's like, no, you're doing great, you know, or all I was there for is to support them in what they wanted to do. If Tony Hale gave me a look as I was leaving, I would give him a look back, right? That yes and moment of like, yeah, I don't like you either.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it was to help them springboard into their scene.
So cool. You can check out Being the Ricardos on Amazon Video. It is streaming right now, so I highly encourage you to check out that movie for a host of reasons, primary of which is seeing Gail's great scene there towards the end of the movie. Gail, thank you so much for making some time to chat with us today. This was awesome.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.